Great.
Go ahead,
Thank
Vi.
you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Ministers, for joining us this morning to help the committee study the impacts of COVID-19 on women. We greatly appreciate you being here virtually. We know that it has been 131 days since this committee last met, so I think all committee members recognize the importance and the opportunity for parliamentarians to study the unique impacts on women as a result of this pandemic and critically the government's response to it. Committee members are also well aware that women make up the overwhelming majority of students in this country, over 60%. However, like many other sectors, they do not occupy many of the senior positions like PhD programs and faculty positions. And all of this despite making up the majority of undergraduate students for the last 30 years. So I think that this is quite a concern. And as a result, the summer months are critical to helping women students work to afford tuition and continue their academic careers. I know this because I was a student who was a waitress and worked to help pay my education for many years. So I will make reference to some of the Manitoba statistics that I believe are relevant to this. The restaurant, hotel, and retail sector, which is dominated by young people, particularly student women, represented 43.5% of job losses. Younger Manitobans aged 15 to 24 accounted for 35.3% of job losses, and 56% of Manitoba job losses were women. Now, the Canada Student Service Grant is, in fact, a response to these alarming statistics. I'm sure you would agree. And I have to say I do applaud the government for thinking in innovative ways to support students who have been unable to find summer work. And frankly, this grant would have been a great help to me a decade ago. So with that in mind, Minister Qualtrough, would you permit me to ask you a few quick questions about the grant, given it's on the minds of Canadians and students?
Oh, my apologies. I was on mute. Absolutely understanding that it's not my file. I can give you the most information that I have and refer you to a colleague and commit to giving you feedback if I can't answer with your details.
Okay. Thank you, Minister. I do appreciate that. As part of this study, can you confirm then, my understanding was that this grant did in fact fall under your department. Is that not the case?
Technically under the Department of ESDC, but under the responsibilities of the Minister of Diversity, Inclusion and Youth.
Okay. So it was not one of your officials that recommended the We Charity to run the program?
I'm not trying to be difficult, but I was not the program lead on this, but it would have, of course, been ESDC officials who supported Minister Chagar in the development of this program, yes.
Okay. Minister, can you confirm if there were other organizations in that department that were considered before the decision was made to award the $900 million sole source contract to We Charity? And did that include any women-led organizations?
I'm not privy to that information. I do understand that part of the decision-making rationale was with the speed with which it had to be rolled out. But again, my colleague is much better positioned to answer the specificity, and we can get that information for you.
Yeah, I'd appreciate that. And I do remember the announcement. It was $9 billion in total for students, I believe on April 22nd, was it? And then it did take about 2 months to roll out the program. And I'm sure you would agree it was a bit of a disaster of a rollout. And I do believe that this grant is very important, so I'm very keen to see it be successful, but I am concerned. Was this decision brought forward at all to Cabinet so that the Women and Gender Equality Minister could provide her feedback regarding the impact on women or the GBA+? Are you aware of any of that?
I cannot, of course, divulge Cabinet confidence, but as a matter of process, the Cabinet does have such discussions.
Okay, can you confirm, or maybe perhaps Minister Monsef can confirm if she provided feedback regarding the sole source contract to We and the impact on women? Oh, you're
Minister
muted,
Monsef,
Minister.
you're on mute.
Thank you for that question and for sharing a bit of your own personal story as someone who worked in a restaurant for 5 years. I appreciate that. As Minister Qualtrough said, we can't obviously divulge cabinet matters, but let me be very clear. The purpose of these programs are to support students who are ready to step up and to do things in their community that make a difference, that ease suffering.
For sure. Sorry, Minister, we just have to move on. I only have half a minute left. I'll just get right to it. I'm just looking for confirmation from either of you and any of your involvement on this, particularly Minister Monsef with the approval on the women angle. And Minister Qualtrough, can you confirm that your department will turn over all documentation and make witnesses involved in this wee scam, as it's been called, available to the Ethics Commissioner for their investigation? And will your department fully cooperate with the Auditor General and the Procurement Ombudsman?
Well, thank you. I can absolutely confirm that we will work with the Auditor General and comply with any such requests.